Right, I'm going to talk to you first about the claim to the throne of Edgar the Aetheling. Now, actually, I'm going to start down here because poor old Edgar, we don't really know how old he was. They didn't have birth certificates then, but he was around about the age of 14 in 1066. Which doesn't completely count him out because William of Normandy was young when he took the claims to the throne. This is a more significant reason why the Witan was never going to choose him and he was going to have a weak claim to the throne, because he had no experience. That's one thing they did William when he took the dukedom of Normandy, but he didn't have any land and he didn't have any followers. He didn't have any power, effectively. He didn't have any power to influence the decision. The only thing that he had in his favour is, by the measure of primogeniture. It's an A-level word. I'm going to teach you it. I want you to use it in your exams if it comes to it. But by the measure of primogeniture, Edgar the Aetheling had the strongest claim to the throne. Now, the measurement of primogeniture is that first genetics. By the measure of firstborn, he is the rightful heir to the throne. In other words, he's not the firstborn. He is the person with the closest genetics to Edward the Confessor. He's the closest relation to Edward the Confessor. But even that's not a particularly strong claim, because he's not that strongly related to Edward the Confessor. He's not. He's Edward the Confessor's half-brother's grandson. It's way removed. Also, he grew up in Hungary. That's where they found him. But this bit, the fact that they went to find him, the fact that Edward the Confessor sent the Bishop of Winchester to, you can get that down. The Bishop of Winchester was sent to go and find Edward the Exile, actually. That's his dad. They went off to find relatives, basically. Why would Edward the Confessor spend loads of money, send a really trusted noble thousands of miles to go and find what must have been like trying to find a needle in a haystack? Eventually finding them in Hungary. Now, unfortunately, Edward the Exile died when he arrived into London, or into England anyway. So Edgar the Aetheling, by modern standards, has the strongest claim to the throne, but you've got to remember that back in 1066 the world was very different, and just being the closest related is not necessarily the strongest claim that you could have to the throne. And the biggest thing counting against him is especially these two bits: no land, no followers, no power to influence the decision of who should be the king of the Witan, and no land or followers to pay for an army to fight to be king. So he had very little chance. That's Edgar the Aetheling.